It's time for the Ruby Girl Talk with your favorite Ruby Girl, Dr. K. Hey everyone, how you doing? How you doing? It is time for another wonderful, awesome, and powerful episode of the Ruby Girl Talk. And as always, I have another awesome guest. I can't wait for us to dive into this talk tonight. I told her I am so honored to have a warrior on my show tonight. And I call her a warrior because a warrior is somebody that has fought battles. And so they have little battle scars, they have some things, but they come out the fight with purpose. And they come out the fight stronger than when they went into the fight. And so Miss Courtney tonight, I can't wait till we get into her book, get into her story. But first, what I want to do is give y'all my $1 million commercial. So Miss Courtney, if you could go on my page while I do this, look and find the Facebook video. Yeah, live. There we go. And share it on your page. Your people can join in with this interview with you. So, I'm Karron Dodd, also known as Coach K. I am the founder of His Designs LLC and the creator of the Ruby Girl brand. Y'all, look at this. Been saying it for a million years. So Ruby Girl comes from Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above the price of a ruby. So come on, ladies, this special is for you. It makes you rare, virtuous, and is always valuable to God. So let's get started tonight. Oh, I have to give you my website too. Go to rubygirl.net. You can connect with me. You can get you a free ebook, and you can also shop around for my books and connect with me on the AI level. All right, now we're ready. We cleared everything. Now we're ready for Miss Courtney. So, Miss Courtney, go ahead and give us a 30-second introduction.
Okay, well, first, thank you, Dr. Karen, for having me on your show today. And happy anniversary. You going into, I believe, 5 years of being on your
6.
podcast. Oh, six. Okay,
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Yes, I'm Courtney Banks McLaughlin. I am an author, a mom. I probably should have said mom first, mom, wife. I became an author about a month ago. Dr. Karen allowed me the opportunity to be able to share my story. My book is called, well, memoir is called Silent Tears, The Unspoken Pain. And my memoir is about me being in a domestic violence, of me losing a daughter at 15 years old. It talks about my political career, and we'll, further talk about that later on in the show. But thank you for the opportunity. And Dr. Karen is from Detroit. That's actually that's where you're at now. That's actually where I grew up at. So I grew up in Detroit, currently living in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. So I'm here with family. I end up attending college at Arkansas Baptist College in Little Rock, Arkansas. And from college brought me here to North Carolina, where I started my life here in my career in politics. And I've been here in North Carolina ever since. So again, it's a pleasure to be here. Also, I will ask that you all follow me on all different social media platforms at Courtney Banks McLaughlin. Also, check out my book. It's streaming on it's on Amazon. You can also purchase a Kindle as well. So go to Amazon.com, and it's Courtney Banks McLaughlin. Again, the book is The Unspoken Pain.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All
Yes,
right,
yep.
Miss Courtney, let's get into this conversation tonight. Now, tell us about your historical first you have done in politics.
Okay, so back in 2009, I was first elected. Back in 2009, I've served 6 years on city council, become the first Black female, not even a Black female, the first African American to serve District 8 here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So that was a very, very inspiring and profound situation that I was, a part of here in the community. It's something I've always wanted to do. I always love advocating. I love community service, just always love being able to help and build our community. So that's what I've done over the last several years. I've also been appointed by our previous governor, Roy Cooper, to serve on the Governor's Crime Commission. And so there we helped, fund a lot of institutions in the community, the police department, and things of that nature to help surrounding violence in our community, just making sure that our community, our city, state have the resources that they need to be able to to be able to keep our community safe.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yes.
something that's historical. I wonder, I'll be glad when the day come where we have no more first African American this, first American African American that, that we have taken a spot everywhere that we need to take a spot. And
Right.
so how did it feel knowing that you was like the first African American on
It
the
felt
council, that
It
district?
felt really good. I mean, I've had individuals that were the first senator, first Black female senator in our community. So I and other first Black females. So it was also inspiring to watch them leave their mark. So for me to be able to do the same thing, it has truly been a blessing. And I want, young girls and young children to be able to see that it's possible. And so I was able and given an opportunity because the community saw something in me. And so they entrusted me to be able to serve. So that was a very humbling opportunity.
I bet it was. So
It was.
I remember in your introduction, you started off with you was an author, and you was like, "Well, maybe I should have said a mom first," but I can understand the excitement because to become an author is not an easy journey. I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
easier to birth a baby than it is sometimes to birth a book. So I understand
Minus
why
the
you said I'm an
pain.
author. Yeah, minus the pain. You're
But
right.
it was some pain too, emotional roller coaster. Writing this memoir, and it's funny that you mentioned that because it took some time. I thought it would be something easy because ever since I've been in middle school, I've always journaled. So writing for me always pretty much came easy, but it was more about things that I experienced throughout, my day to
Mhm.
day life experiences. So, but writing this memoir, it took me a little over a year. The words were there. It was just, is this the right time? Do I want to add? Do I want to take away? Is it too much information? Not enough information. But back and forth, I'm with it, and just knowing that this was my first memoir, and I wanted to make sure that this memoir touched the readers. And
Mm.
so I wanted to be, really intentional with the wording and my audience. So it took a while, but I'm here. It's here.
So what made you decide to tell your story instead of just carrying the pain silently?
Because I truly believe that there's so many people that's have experienced what I've experienced, or maybe going through it, or may possibly go through that in the future. And for me, I didn't have anybody, to a certain degree, anybody to talk to about the things that I held inside. And I wanted to just be able to be open and express how I feel, just to be able to hope to inspire other individuals. And then also, because a lot of times women, we go through a lot of things, men as well, we go through a lot of things and we hold it in. And especially when I talk about grief, and I wanted people to just be inspired by that, to be able to express how you feel, because mental health is real. And then not only that, um, for family members and friends to be able to see those red signs, or I mean red flags, that people that they love or friends that they may have may be going through something. So just to kind of show them and tell them how to show up. And also for the individual that's experiencing something, not always expecting people to show up for you. You have to let them know how to show up. So that's what really inspired me, just to be able to express how you feel, and not so much worry about what other people think and feel about the situation. And I just
Mm.
felt that it was just time for me to just open up and let the world know some of the things
Mm.
I've, experienced. And most important is to allow people to understand, no matter what you go through in life, if you keep the faith, that's the main thing, keeping the faith, and know that God, God is there with you. So this book is more so about keeping the faith despite of whatever situation or circumstances that you may face.
Mm. Good. So you were talking about, you said red flags. Were there red flags in the beginning that you might have overlooked?
I think there's always red flags in every situation, but it's on us to decide. We see, well, for me, I saw the red flags, but I
Mhm,
also was being naive, you know.
mhm,
And that was, and when I'm saying naive, I'm speaking of a situation that I was in, a previous marriage that I was in with my older two children. I saw the signs, but for me, I was young, and I was at that point where I felt that I can change this particular individual.
mm,
And I also believe, when you get married, you want to stay in that marriage. But at the end of the day, I knew that um, it wasn't healthy. So that's when I decided to, after several times, I decided to leave because I wanted better for not just myself, but for my children.
mm. I think a lot of time as women, we see the flags, but we think that when a man asks us to marry them, that they have made up in their mind, I'm not going to do this. I'm about to be this, that they're ready to be married. But a man, when he asks, does not always mean that he's ready to be a husband. It
Hmm.
might be that he think he's ready to be in a marriage, but he might not be ready to be that faithful, protective husband that a woman meet. And I think we got to understand that we have to look at the whole picture. We got to feel that gut, because sometimes it be in our gut like something just ain't right. And we got to
We
stop
know.
ignoring that. We got to stop
Mhm.
overriding that, because that is a protective measure that God has given us. It's something about us as women. We feel we kind of know some things, and God is, I believe He's done that because we are the weaker creature. We need to be protected. And so God has built that inside of us. So, how are we talked about this on the phone, and people might not even thought about this. How are we unknowingly normalizing domestic violence, even in our young children?
You know, so I know for in my memoir I talk a bit about that, just having conversations with other women, because I remember times where I had conversations with family and friends about domestic violence, and to them, with some of them, it's like, well, you don't have a black eye, so that's not abuse, like they don't view, well, some people didn't view domestic violence as, they only viewed it as the physical appearance, when for me it was both physical appearance, the outer physical appearance, as well as mental. um I think, as this generation, we have to have conversations about what is abuse. I mean, abuse can be someone putting their hands on you, someone speaking to you a certain way, disrespecting you with the words that the words that they use, and also even financially. A person can, have that over you, by them being a breadwinner and using that as a way to control you. So I think we need to have those conversations more, especially with our daughters as well as our sons. I know the other day we talked about that. As far as I remember, with my daughter, a young boy, was picking at her, pulling her hair, teasing her, whatever. And I remember going to the school and they're like, "Oh, it's okay. He just likes her." Like, no, we're instilling that in our children, that it's okay for someone to mistreat them or make them feel uncomfortable. And the conversation you're saying is, oh, it's okay, he just likes her. So I think right then and there, we're already allowing our children to think that it's okay for someone to make you feel uncomfortable. And that's not a positive way of showing emotions that you like someone. So I think we just have to try to change that narrative as far as how we treat people.
It be the little stuff that we don't pay attention to, that grows into the big stuff. And you're right. I've seen, how many movies have we seen where the boy pulled the girl hair, and they're in
Or
school.
push her down. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, this, and we think because they're young, we're not understanding that we're training them, that we're teaching them. Children are open to learning everything when
Mhm.
they're younger. And little stuff that we think is subtle, instead of telling him, hey, that's not how you treat a young lady. But in our mind, that can't be it's not abuse because it's children being children.
Children.
But you remember back in the days when men used to you be in a club or something, they touch you or whatever. And honestly, I thought it was men being men. So when women started talking about that was sexual assault, and I was like, well, I just thought men just
That
touched
just
on you and felt on you. That's all they
right.
did when I was growing up. And to me, it was a sign like, oh, they're interested in you. I never looked at it as disrespect, especially if we were out or whatever. It's been times a guy might have touched me inappropriately and I turned around and smiled at him like, hey, what's your name? Because that's what we had been taught, not realizing he had crossed boundaries and he
Very
was
cross line. That's right.
being disrespectful. So that shows you how the little behavior will start to teach us things to make things that's not normal look normal.
Mhm.
So we have to, that's why we always have to be discerning and connected to God and asking God, does this line up with your standards? But you're right. We have taught our men that it's okay to touch. If they see something they like, to touch it. If you like a little girl, to be a little rough with her. So yeah, we have to redo what has been
Mhm.
normalized.
Yeah, and that's why it's
Okay.
important to have those, excuse me, have those conversations now because again, younger not knowing that. Now I'm an adult, like, wait a minute, that's not cool. That's like you said, that's disrespectful. So now us knowing that, we just have to make sure that we inform and talk to our children and the youth about that, especially our young girls, because it's very inappropriate and it's uncomfortable.
True. I totally agree. Now, I remember you were saying that you had the pressure on you to finish college, and you said you lived in Detroit, you ended up down south going to college, but because of that pressure, it kind of caused you to stay in a relationship longer than you should have.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I don't think so much my parents knew that, that
Yeah.
was just something that I put on myself. Knowing I was, the oldest for that generation and the first one to go off to college, it was almost like, okay, Courtney, and this is my, me saying this to myself. Okay, you're about to be the first to go off to college. You have to be the one to make sure you get good grades. You have to make sure that no matter what, you get your degree and you bring that degree back home to show your cousins and the rest of the family that it's possible. So for me, it was, I didn't want to go back without having that degree. And so at some point, for me, I stayed there, and I can't blame that all on that, on me getting a degree, but I stayed there a little bit longer than I should have been, in that relationship. And not only that, too, I had at the time two children, and I didn't want to go back home. When most of the time when you leave home, sometimes once you get yourself established, you don't want to go back. And so when I went to Arkansas to go to college and got my degree, I started a family, had a career there, and I didn't want to leave, and I invested so much. So I didn't. That was another reason why I stayed in a relationship as long as I did, because I felt like that was, I invested a lot. And not only that, I think a lot of times with females, we get in these relationships that might not be healthy, but we figure, oh, I didn't invest this much time. Now I have children. I don't want to start all over again. What about if I start all over again and end up in the same situation? And so that kind of pushed off, the timing for me. But, after time and time again, and after prayer and realizing that, hey, it's either, you got to survive, and survive for me meant leaving that relationship. And again, I had children. I wanted them to see a healthy relationship, a healthy home,
Right.
environment. And also, in my memoir, I talk about that, where it was a time where once I left that relationship, having to start all over, then once I start over, I'm like, now what? Here I
Mhm.
am, a single parent raising two children. It was a struggle for me, raising two children at that time on my own, still young, just finishing off college, and still trying to figure things out, still trying to figure out how to be a parent to a 2 year old and a 4 year old as a single mother. Um, but I did it. And later on I end up finding love, so there come a point where you have to eventually, for me, I focused on myself for a while, sat back and, thought about the things that I want in life for myself, and what that possibly may look like. And I sat alone and prayed a lot, went to church, and when I felt like I built up that strength, mentally, then love came and fell right on my lap, and it was easy. And I knew then that that's what love, is about, being respected, being being loved, and being patient. And that's what I found in my current husband. And right now we've been together for 17 years now. And so, yeah, and with two other children added to the bunch. And that was another thing too. When I was younger, I didn't really remember, or just being around a women and family, I didn't never remember hearing or having those conversations of what love's supposed to look like. It was more, I think, more financially, like, make sure when you get in a relationship, you well off, things like that, but not how a person treats you, how they should respect you and cherish you. And so I've got that in my current husband. And again, I'm hoping that this memoir inspires other women, just because you've been in a bad relationship or been through, and men, I don't want to keep leaving the men out, but you can be in a relationship that's not so good, and later on find something that's better. So don't give up on, don't give up on love,
But
and
that's
take your time.
Yes, please take your time. One thing, I think the generation before us gave us a lot of advice, not from experience, but from their wishes and their dreams of what they might have missed in life and that they wanted a better life for us. So most of the time, our generation was the first generation that was going to college. And so they put a lot of hopes on us to change the whole legacy of the family. That once she
Mhm.
go to college, get her degree, now the family is going to be good going forward only going forward. That was a lot of pressure
Yeah.
on us. And we had the unspoken rule too. If once you're out, you couldn't come back. And so I know parents are a little bit lenient, they're a little bit different, but I think we still have not found that balance. Our
Mhm.
parents were hard on us. And then these parents are soft on them. So it's got to be
So
like
we
a
gotta
it's got to
gotta
be a
find
balance.
yeah.
Kids need that discipline. The Bible talks about it, that discipline. And then we got the discipline. Boy, we got their discipline.
Mhm.
But it taught us how to be better human beings, more compassionate. We understood how to work hard. We were just a different generation coming up. We were
Yeah.
respectful of our elders and everything, but there was a lot of pressure on us, and that made us to maybe stay in situations that we shouldn't. Because I was sharing with you,
Mhm.
my family, they were like, "You real smart." They really wanted me to go to college, and I was going for a while, but I went before I was ready. I went before I knew what I was supposed to do. So
Yeah.
what happened? I dropped out, got two jobs, and I remember talking to a cousin of mine, and she told me, just out the blue, "I really wish you had finished college." And I'm thinking, like, you didn't even finish high school, but I guess they lived their dreams through us.
Mhm.
But like I said, the narrative is so different now. But we're gonna take a break. And I'm gonna give you a whole minute. You're gonna take over the show while I go on Facebook and social media and see what people are saying. So, Miss Courtney, go ahead, give us a 1 minute power talk.
Okay, so this can be about anything. Let's
Yeah.
So, for all of the viewers that are listening or may listen in the future, I'm always lead with keep the faith. Despite whatever you go through, there are going to be times where it feels like it's a lot on you, but you still want to continue to keep the faith, continue to pray. And when you're going through things, don't go through it alone. Reach out to family and friends, because you'll be surprised individuals that may be going through the same thing you're going through. And for me, even, and I guess we'll talk about that later on, even with losing my daughter, the things that I experienced with grief, my children experienced, my husband and family in general, we had to lead on each other. The community stepped up, and still to this day are so supportive. So it really takes a village to be able to lean on each other, support each other, because we have to, like I mentioned earlier, mental health is real. You will see people smiling, bubbly all the time. And for me, that's what people see when they see me. I run across a lot of people that say, oh my God, you're so strong. You're always smiling. You're here. You're traveling. You're doing X, Y, Z. But deep down inside, you don't know what I was doing 10 minutes prior to you seeing me, or what am I, what's going through my mind 10 minutes after we've encountered each other. So lead with kind, be kind to one another, love on one another, because again, you never know what someone is going through. And also be an inspiration to someone, because some people don't have mentors or people to talk to. So just be open minded, because again, you never know what people are going through. And always reach out if you need help. Do not be afraid. Do not be shy. You only can hold so much in before it spill over. So yeah, so make sure you reach out to someone that you feel that have an open ear.
Okay, all right. I went out there on Facebook. We got a few hellos and hi and good evenings and everything. So thank you for everyone that's watching. Please share. If you're watching, please share, share, share. Share, sharing is caring. So we need a little caring tonight. So I want to thank everybody that's out there that's watching, that comment, that just said hello and just say good job, and that
Mhm.
that what we're saying is resonating with what's in their heart and some of the
Absolutely.
things that they're thinking about. So now we go to the second part of the show. And so
Mhm.
we want to talk a little bit more about why you decided to exit that relationship. I think that's the most important decision that any woman that goes through domestic violence
Mhm.
makes, because it's it's all it's how can I put it? It's the most important decision because there's so much attached to it. Your safety, your children. It's so many unspoken whys, hows. There you go. How am I going to do this? How am I going to manage? And sometimes, we feel better in our comfort zone, even if it's bad, versus coming out. So, what made
Mhm.
you decide? What finally was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Well, I feel like I knew entering a relationship that I should have been exiting. The relation I mean, seriously, but I think
Yeah.
at that time, for me, I was vulnerable. I was still young and naive, 18, 19 years old in college, away from home. And I felt, I felt like that person provided something that I hadn't had before, especially at a young age. Um, it's like we know when something is not healthy, but we still want to hold on to it. And then the first time well, I was gonna say not the first time, but when I wanted to leave, I ended up getting pregnant. Like I got pregnant early on in our relationship. So I've always wanted a family. If I always wanted to have a family. If I was going to have children, I wanted it to be a family. I wanted the husband in the home, and I wanted us to be able to raise a child together. So that was the first thing. So I stayed because I didn't want to leave a relationship and have a child and raise my child alone. I knew what it was like to have a father in my life, but not as present as I would like for him to be in my life.
Mhm.
So that was one reason why I held on. Second reason I held on, because again, I thought that I could change that person. I felt that we were young. If I give it a little bit more time, things get a little bit better. Um, I then at the same time, I thought it was me. Maybe I need to change to make this relationship better. Um, After that, second child was born. So here I am now, where it was hard. It would have been harder to leave then, but now it's extremely harder for me to leave. And I was afraid to leave. I was afraid um, of him if I was to leave. Then also, I was afraid because I didn't know what was next, what my life would look like with two children. And where do I go? Do I go back home, back to Detroit, which at that time I did not want to go there and raise a family, and knew that my family, you know, their circumstances, and me coming back home with two other children. So it was a lot, but I could say that was one of the hardest things that I had to do, leave that relationship. But it was also one of the best things that I did, leaving that relationship. And, it got to the point where I had to leave, or my children weren't going to have a mother or a father. And again, I don't want to say too much because it's in a memoir, but it got that serious where I literally had to pack my bags, myself and my children, and leave like immediately. And after praying and praying and praying, um, I knew that I had to. And that's how I ended up leaving. And then, the sad thing is that, man, you talked about how a lot of women protect men, protect our men. Even after I left, I still felt maybe I should go back, because I went through that roller coaster, and I had to tell myself, no, you left for a reason. Don't go back. It's not safe. It's not healthy. That person will never change. Um, it's time for you to move on, put your big girl panties on, figure it out, and do the best that you can as a mother to your children. And that's what I did, the best that I could, raising my children.
Because children are affected by that environment. They don't have to be hit, but the things that they hear, the things that they see, it forms opinions and creates behavior in them, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I hear a lot of women say they stay because of the children, that they wanted their children to have a mother and father.
And
But
it's not good.
no, you have to
It's not
sometimes think,
good.
what type of father do I want my children to have? I just
Right.
don't want them to have a man in the house and they see this man angry and hitting on their
Mhm.
mom. I want them to have a father that loves and protects
That's right.
their mother, and
Right.
also protects them and makes them feel safe, you
Right.
know?
And I thought, what would that look like, to my son, because he's witnessed some things. My daughter witnessed some things. And I'm like, what would they, how are they looking at their mother like, mom, for a daughter? If I witnessed my mom going through some of these things, I'll be like, Mom, what is going on? If you don't pack up, let me help you pack up and leave. So I wanted to, having a daughter and a son at that time, I'm like, I want my son to know how to treat a woman when he gets older. I want my daughter to know what loves look like in a relationship. And I wasn't able to do that if I remain in that relationship. And I wanted them to be in a safe environment, a safe and loving environment. Don't get me wrong, love was there, but it was toxic and it wasn't healthy for neither one of us nor our children.
Mm, wow, that makes sense. All right, so we're talking about Miss Courtney's book, Silent Tears, The Unspoken Pain. But it seemed like you have given a voice to your tears and a voice to your pain, found purpose in your pain. A lot of people that I've interviewed that's been through domestic violence or been through tragic situations, they found their purpose in there. They started organizations. They're lobbying for certain rights and everything. And so I want to talk about. Could you tell us what happened to your daughter?
Yes. So my daughter lost her life about almost 4 years ago now, through gun violence. And again, it's a little bit more about that in the memoir. But she lost her life. So for me, at that time, I was still serving on city council, advocating as an elected official, advocating for trying to keep our community safe. I'm trying to get guns off the streets, trying to, make sure we provide as much funding necessary for our youth. And in the midst of that, losing my daughter from a friend of hers, allegedly playing with guns, and the gun ended up, killing her. And that was a hard time for still to this day, a hard time for me and my family. And that's one thing I will continue to advocate for, is making sure we get these guns off the streets. Especially our youth is getting, it's so accessible to our youth. Whether it's in the home with the parents, making sure that they're keeping those guns locked away. But it's been really, really, really hard. And that was also one thing that really inspired me to go ahead and push this memoir out, because as parents, we try to do the best that we can with raising our children. And for a while, I was angry with myself. Like, what did I do wrong? Here I am trying to save the world and yet lose a child. So that was really hard. And I still, in the memoir, I talk about that too, talk about forgiveness, forgiving the domestic relationship I've been in, forgiving that individual, forgiving myself, for at one point being angry with God, being angry at myself, husband, just mad at the world. And so again, it's just to inspire individuals with, whether it's you lose a child or you lose a loved one. um After that, what do you do? And
Mhm.
so for me, I wanted to be able to advocate and pour into other mothers who had experienced that. We started a foundation for my daughter, which the proceeds go to um, the because she was planning on going to the Air Force. So the foundation is for the students that are part of the JROTC program at her high school. So we fund a program each year. So that's one thing that we're doing in honoring her. Also, I've worked, on a state level, trying to pass some laws, especially specifically towards guns, even on a federal level. So those are things that I've been advocating, and also still making sure that I, mentor the youth. So those are a couple of things that I've been doing since my daughter incident. And also, our church started a memorial garden garden for teen victims who's been murdered by guns. So those are, just a little few things that we're doing, and still just trying to keep her name and memory alive.
Well, my condolences,
Thank you.
to you and the loss of your daughter. I know that's the most heartbreaking thing that anybody can go through is a loss of a child, and
Yeah.
especially at 15, where she's getting to the point where she's about to be, sweet 16, and then
Sweet
coming to,
16, right? Literally, she
yeah,
passed away a month before her 16th birthday. That
mm,
following year, she would have been graduating,
yeah,
so around that time, it was really hard for the family and I. But, I always tell everybody, each throughout the day, I'm praying, I'm asking God to keep me in, the right frame of mind. And so far, He has been doing that. And that's pretty much all all I can do. And I'm sure other mothers of family members can relate in that sense, where at the end of the day, you just have to continue to call on God to ask you to, continue to give you strength
yeah,
in these times. And I'm also too grateful for the years I've had with my daughter,
yeah,
the memories, that were created. So I'm absolutely thankful for that. But yet it still hurt, it still hurts, but
yeah.
I'm truly thankful for the years that I had to share with her.
Amen. Amen. God lends it some people just for a short time, and they
Yeah.
leave the greatest impact in the earth. Their
Mhm.
legacy never dies. It's just
That's
like
right.
Jesus when he died up on the cross, and look, century later, we have
We still,
our time is determined. BC before Christ, AD after death.
mhm. Yes. Yes,
So
ma'am.
I really enjoyed this talk with you, Miss Courtney. Y'all have to go to Amazon, type in Silent Tears, The Unspoken Pain, and order her book. So make sure you support her so you can hear about how she got out of the domestic violence situation, and read a little bit more about how she handled what she went through with her daughter. So she has strong testimonies in that book. So Miss Courtney, we're at the end of our interview. Seemed like it went really, 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 really
Thank you.
fast. So I'm gonna give you a 3 minute close out. I'm gonna give you an extra bonus minute to close out. So
Oh,
just go right ahead, Miss Courtney. And
okay.
I'm
Well,
gonna look and find your link on Amazon and share it in the chat, okay?
okay. Thank you again, Dr. Karen, for the opportunity. Again, the memoir is Silent Tears, The Unspoken Pain on Amazon. Please make sure you purchase the memoir. Again, it's just to inspire you because we experience so much in life that sometimes it's always good to be able to have something to read, something to help motivate and encourage you. And that's what this memoir is about. It's not only about grief for losing a child, it's simply about keeping the faith. It's about also about things that I experienced in my political career. A lot of times women face a lot of challenges in a careers, not only in political arenas, but just, just in general. So again, this book was about balancing family and career. It's about love and starting all over again despite whatever situation that you experience. So please make sure you go out and get the book, and make sure you also, when you purchase it on Amazon and you read it, make sure that you leave a review. This is the first and it is not the last. I have so much else to share. And again, Ms. Dr. Karen, I just appreciate you for giving me the opportunity. I wish your podcast another successful 6+ years. And thank you for just giving me this platform to be able to share my story and not give so much out without, because I don't want to put too much out there because it is a memoir and I really want people to go out and read it. And make sure once you read it, share it if it's inspiring to the next person because we all need each other. And again, my name is Courtney Banks McLaughlin. I look forward to you guys reading the memoir and keep the faith. I'm always saying, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith. For the mothers or anybody that's experiencing grief, just know that you are not the only one experiencing grief. Unfortunately, it's a part of life, but there are so many people who want to be able to support you and show up, but it's up to you to open up your mouth and tell them that you need help. If it's serious, go to therapy, because therapy is a great way of helping you cope with the things that you may experience. So I'll just leave with that, Dr. Karen.
Okay, thank you, Miss Courtney. Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you being open tonight and not giving them the full story, leaving them on the curiosity bus.
Yeah.
Now they're curious. They was like, okay, I really have to read this book. So thank you
Mhm.
for everything that you shared, the encouragement that you gave tonight, and I pray that if somebody out there that has lost their child, that this is an encouragement to you. That maybe you just lost your child. Maybe this is encouragement to show you how where you can land in your grief journey. Your child will never be forgotten. That grief will never just go away. But I thought about I was like, people say time heals all wounds. I think time helps you to manage the wounds that you have.
Mhm.
Because grief is a gangster. It sneaks up. It can be two,
Out
three
the
years
blue.
later. And out the blue, it can be anything that'll trigger you and bring you all the way back to that moment. But thank God that we have the Holy Spirit, which is our comforter, and He holds our hand through every moment of grief that we go through. So make
Amen.
sure you go on Amazon. I put it in the link, y'all. I put it out there in the chat. So make sure you press it, go and support her. So thank you so much, Miss Courtney. And what we're gonna do, y'all, we're signing off, but I want to thank you all for watching. Come back next week, same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Ruby Girl Talk Show. So I'm just going to say good night to you all and thank you once again for being part of the audience.
Thank you. Take care.